For over 20 years, I've dedicated my life to bringing you the very best selling, marketing, and business building strategies to keep your business thriving. Get ready to experience the success you've been searching for. Welcome to the Tom Ferry Show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Tom Ferry Show, episode 107. Did you guys know this is actually my emoji? My team has been asking me over and over again, hey, will you just answer some of the questions that people are like always hitting them up on, whether it's my sales team, my coaches, my support and service team internally. So I thought I would just do kind of a fun show today to let you know things that I'm interested in. Like, first of all, I eat sardines every day, sometimes 2 to 3 times a day, usually followed by one of these. But if you ask me why, it's because last December, I was sitting with my little brother, Patrick, who is just as fit as can be and 4 years younger than me. And I said to him, like, tell me the thing that you do that's really made the difference. I don't need to have like 50 things and I don't need a diet. I'm into like sustainable energy, health and vitality. Like I do all these things from Dr. Daniel Amen every single day. I've done that for years because a few years ago while snowboarding, I had a couple concussions and hit the ice. And I know I'm bouncing here, but I went to Dr. Daniel Amen. You probably see him on PBS. If you're one of my top clients, I just had him at one of our conferences in January. And he did a brain scan of my brain. And he showed me that actually the front of my brain that should be round because of multiple concussions had actually flattened. And then he showed me that the bottom piece of my brain that sits inside these little cups, that is your long-term and short-term memory, had actually been impacted dramatically. And I started getting nervous about that. So he started putting me on these supplements. I'm eating for brain health. I'm doing supplements for brain health. I do exercise for brain health. So people are like, why would you eat sardines? They taste horrible. Mainly, it's the same reason I take these pills, right? It's omega-3s. Like, I want to eat and I want to live and I want to breathe and I want to move for maximum energy and brain vitality. So I'm no doctor and I'm not recommending you start eating sardines, but do your homework. The ketosis plan, the ketosis diet. Tim Ferriss has, certainly made it more famous. But my brother Patrick just said to me last December, look, buddy, if you just eat on the ketosis plan from the time you wake up until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, if you want to enjoy a glass of wine or do whatever, you're going to be fine. But it's like that old 80-20 principle. If you eat 80% of the time really clean, really healthy, you're going to win. So I'm super into that. By the way, I'm super into this. I don't know if you guys can see these, but a really cool gift that my wife gave me. There's 5 different colors of Buddha, and really the inspiration for it was this book. So let's talk about books for a second. Really insanely great book because it gets into the neuroscience of happiness, right? So it's one thing for me to walk around and go, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. But up here, this beautiful brain of ours, so think about the contrast of my world, right? I talk about mindset, but I've got a buddy of mine, Christopher Duma, who's one of the leading brain surgeons on the planet. Like, he does 15 brain surgeries a week. So, we'll meet and play golf, and I'll say, hey, I had like 20 sessions with clients trying to get them out of their head. And he's like, well, that's really interesting because I had like 14 tumors that I removed from people's brains. But we meet in the middle on this kind of stuff. We meet on the neuroscience of self-esteem. Like, how does it really work? So read that one, but while we're there, you got to read this one, right? Dr. Carol Dweck, the book is called Mindset. It's not motivational in any way, shape, or form. What it really is about is that we as human beings have 2 different types of mindsets. We're either fixed or we're growth. We're either fixed or we're growth. Fixed people, like they can't handle feedback, they can't handle criticism, they don't like new ideas, and they're constantly afraid to lose, where the growth mindset, we're like open to the feedback. We want the coaching, we want the criticism. Elon Musk, tell me everything that's wrong with what I'm doing so I can get better. This is a groundbreaking piece of work. This one is just hysterical because he basically just makes fun of the entire motivational industry and then does it all the same way, but just absolutely love it. Obsessed. If you're an entrepreneur, you're watching this, right? So you're an entrepreneur. Vern Harnish. The first time I got exposed to Vern Harnish was his book called Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. And though I don't have it in the stack, I strongly recommend it. Vern is kind of known in the last 30 years as the guy you go to scale your business, right? So he teaches a scaling philosophy. And whether you're talking about your business, my business, Microsoft, Apple, or a solution like Zillow, right, that scaled up very dramatically, that there is a methodology behind scaling. So I'm obsessed with this book. Now, before you ask yourself, well, gosh, Tom, like, it's easy for you. You get on airplanes. You've got all this extra excess time to read. Let me give you a little insight. My old mentor, Mike Vance, who passed away a couple years ago, and just is such a saint, right? He was Walt Disney's right-hand man. He was one of Steve Jobs' mentors, right? He actually worked with Steve in the very beginning of Apple and took options and stock, no cash. That was a smart deal. He mentored a young guy named Jack Welch. We all know what became of Jack. He invented the salad bar. Walt Disney called him the most creative man on the planet. Like, that's a pretty big compliment coming from a guy like Walt Disney. When I was exposed to Mike in my 20s and then coaching with him, he was my business coach in my 30s, I can tell you that he said, the more you read, the more information you absorb, the better. And he said, but Tom, here's the deal. When you start reading the book, he said, understand, you don't need to go from cover to cover. He said, 80% of the book is just validating the 20% that you want. So here's what's funny. I'm watching Seth Godin, who I'm obsessed about. I love Seth Godin. I watch a lot of Seth Godin on YouTube. I was thinking about sharing some of the things I watch on YouTube every day as well. Seth Godin said, I receive in the mail 1,000 books a year from people. And he said, and I, in fairness to the person that sent me the book, I read it until I get the joke. I read it until I get the joke. I stole that line. I was like, that is so brilliant. Like, Mike Vance would have loved that. Like, you read the book until you get the joke. Here's the joke. Stop caring about what anyone else thinks, right? This is very much just be a little contrarian. If everybody else is going for $1 bazillion, be satisfied with making 100, especially if you're only making 20. You with me on this? Like, read it till you get the joke. This one, you gotta read, right? You gotta go deep. So I hope that gives you some insight. Things that I'm studying all the time, my buddy Staban Swamppool. Listen, this is our business. This is our industry. This guy spends, I don't even know how many hours. I know he talks about it in the book, dissecting and analyzing the last decade and a half. What are the most important trends happening in real estate? Which, by the way, I wasn't shocked by it, but the number one trend for 2017 is something that we've been talking about for the last 4 years called teams rule the day. And that was the number one trend in 2017. Owners are talking about it. Agents are talking about it. Consumers understand it. Every major service provider in the real estate space is paying attention to teams because teams, Steve Murray. Do you know who Steve Murray is? Do you read Real Trends? I read Real Trends, right? Steve Murray, who's been around the industry for 28, 29 years, he is the broker's broker. If you want to sell your business, you call Steve Murray, right? If you want to sell your franchise, your brokerage, and now team, you call Steve Murray. He's the guy. He's also the guy that does the Real Trends Top 1,000 Agents. He shared something in January of this year at one of our events where he said, Tom, in the last 5 years, when I look at the top 250 teams versus the top 250 agents, the teams have had 35, 40% sustainable growth year over year. The individual agents, flat. In many cases, they're on the list and off the list. They're on the list and off the list. That the teams are the ones that are sustainable. See, that's interesting to me. Is that interesting to you? That's why I read this stuff. This one, though, this is like probably my 9th copy. Zillow took the time to do, in my opinion, one of the most in-depth understandings of what are from, Gen Y and millennial to matures, boomers, what is important to them with real estate agents, how are they making their decisions? This literally, I think, Taz, how many slides did you make from this?
30, 40?
Right, 30, 40 slides. Taz behind the camera, because I just go, Taz, turn this into PowerPoints. He made 30, 40 slides just on this. That's how important this is for our industry. So I know you're sitting here going, Tom, okay, wait a minute. I plug into the Tom Ferry Show once a week. You start with this. Now you're telling me to eat sardines. You take these pills. I do this twice a day. You've got 3 different color Buddhas, and there's 5. Why does Tom Ferry have these 3 colors? You might want to ask yourself that question and Google it. You got to have these post sardines. You read all this stuff. You're studying all this stuff. You know what it is? Life is short. Life is really, 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 really short. I remember talking to Mike Vance before he passed away. Actually, you know what, even better, I remember talking to my grandfather before he passed away, right? My dad's dad. So get this, he is in the hospital, right? About to have his second open heart surgery. And basically, it was one of those like, if you do the surgery, you got a 10% chance to live. If you don't do the surgery, you will die in 90 days. So guess what? My grandfather, who by the way was one of the very first Toastmasters guys, he was a World War II vet, was a, what is it called when you're an eye doctor? He was an eye doctor, right? And he took his family and he moved them from Minnesota to California to shake things up, to start anew. And when I look at my dad and my aunts and my uncles, from that side of my family, that all he wanted them to do was get a good education, get a good job. They all became crazy entrepreneurs and built these incredible lives for themselves and their family and the people that they loved. And on his deathbed, right? I remember the conversations because it was all about, hey, you know what? Life is short. Like, he had this big personality. He had this, I think he was actually reading like on his, like the morning of, like kidding, how to survive open heart surgery, because that's just who he was. When you really think about how short life is, you basically do one of two things. You wait to die, or you try and maximize every second of it. I'm just trying to maximize every second of it by learning, by talking, by sharing, by starting anew, by going deep on things that matter. And I guess, if you're watching this, you're probably just like me. And what I would just say to you is, thank you. Thank you for being on the journey with me. Thank you for being the kind of person that gets, we are on this planet for a short amount of time, and it's just about maximizing the experience, because we all die. The day you're born, the day you die. That dash in the middle, that dash is the story of your life. Mine is just going to happen to be things like emoji and amazing books and sardines and friends and family and contribution in business and entrepreneurship and ups and downs and everything else. And you know what? I'm loving every second of it. Mostly because I just have a growth mindset. How about you? Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this show, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Take care. Hey, thanks so much for watching. We have a number of events coming up, and we'd love to have you there. Visit tomferry.com/events and reserve your spot today.